Okay. My hair is not important for this video, but I can't look at it. Yeah, let me just like run through my storage on my phone and my computer. Super awesome. That looks worse. You know what? I'm just gonna live with it. I'm back. I did it. I'm doing it again. I'm making another video, another serious video. I promise one of these days I'll release something more fun. So today I'm gonna be talking about how to, navigate society, especially one that is fractured. Society has always been fractured, but now with, ICE literally killing people on the streets, it becomes more obvious. The mask slips. Before I even get into what I'm going to talk about, I want to start off with some disclaimers because I feel like it's important. So first of all, this is not supposed to be a guide on how to organize and how to, protest and how to whatnot. Those are all very important things, and I'll list some resources down below, but I just want to clarify that this is not this video, but those are very important as well. Also, I am not by any means a professional. I'm just trying to do my part as much as I can do, and I'm trying to help the best way I can. I did look up stuff for this video, and I'll list my sources below, but I'm also not a professional. I am just not. So if I say anything that comes off as ignorant, or if I say anything wrong, I'm truly, truly, truly sorry. I don't mean to cause any harm or be ignorant. Let's get started, shall we? So, if you've paid attention within the last few weeks or, at all in your life, you'll notice that horrible things are happening. It's always happening, but it's really front page news right now. And it gets to be a lot to just even look at. I mean, of course, it's harder to, deal with what's happening if you've been affected by the things that are happening in this world. If you have been, I'm so sorry. If you are a sympathetic or just a person who believes in humanity, it's hard. It's hard to just exist. There's no perfect way to, exist in these times, but this is what I have found helps. And this is my notes. My notes are back. So the first step in trying to navigate these crazy events that are happening is just by acknowledging the privileges that you have. And before I even get into more of that, I just want to break down what is privilege in regards to society, because I know a lot of us know about it, and we may know that we have white privilege or, straight privilege, cisgender, whatever. But to fully try to understand, it's important to understand what privilege is as a concept when talking about society. So privilege is an advantage or a benefit that someone receives based on the social groups that they are perceived to be a part of. And the word perceived there is important because you don't necessarily have to be a part of a certain social group to benefit from privilege, I'll delve into more of that in a second, but understanding the word privilege is important, and also understanding that privilege goes really deep is something else that is super important. There are categories of privilege, and then there are subcategories of privilege. I'm not gonna try to, explain every single type of privilege, but some of the main, common categories of privilege are, ability, being able-bodied or not, your social or economic class, your education level, and especially getting into higher education, your access to that, your gender, both, the gender assigned at birth and your gender identity, and then passing, which is what I was talking about earlier, the ability to be, straight passing or white passing, along those lines. And then also your race, religion, and your sexual orientation. So for example, for me, some of my privileges, I'm a white man and I'm middle class. That's not all, but I mean, those are some pretty big ones. So you may be thinking to yourself, okay, so I have privilege. Why is it important that I acknowledge that? Good question. At the end of the day, whether you acknowledge it or not, your privilege will still exist. Your privileges in life don't go away if you ignore them. They still exist whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, you still have privileges. That's just the world we live in. That's the society we live in. It can be easy to, just ignore that you have privilege. And it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about because though a lot of us don't agree with it, we still benefit from it. But by acknowledging it and acknowledging how you are privileged compared to somebody else, I think that is part of the work of empathizing with others who don't have the same privileges that you do, which is, part of the reason why things like, oh, I don't see color is so harmful, because, I understand that that's supposed to be like, oh, it doesn't matter what race you are, but like, there are nuances and differences and systems of oppression based on your race. So it is important that you do see color and you do understand the differences in your life versus somebody else who doesn't have the same privileges that you do. In acknowledging, your privileges, it's also important to note that having these privileges does not inherently make you a bad person. Obviously, it can totally lead to, you being a bad person, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It can totally lead to that. But just because you have those privileges doesn't mean that you have to align with the ideologies that come with those privileges. You don't have to be racist just because you're white. You don't have to be sexist just because you're a man. You don't have to be homophobic just because you're straight. It's an active choice that you can make. Even if growing up, that's all you were surrounded by, you can actively still choose to not be any of those things. And also, another thing that is important to acknowledge is that, yes, you may have privilege, but that doesn't mean that you don't have problems. Obviously, there are some issues in the world that may take precedence over a lot of our minds, but that doesn't mean that you also don't suffer with issues in your life, mental health. You could get into a car crash, somebody could stalk you. You can still have problems even if you benefit from a lot of privileges. Minimizing yourself and hating yourself just because you have privileges doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the people who have privileges, it doesn't help the people who don't. So you may be thinking to yourself, okay, so I have privileges. I've acknowledged my privileges. Why, all of that. What does that have to do with navigating society? Well, it helps you understand the position you are in. If you're white, you have white privilege. If you are a man, you have male privilege, all of that sort of stuff. It allows you to understand the position that you're in as a person and how you can help. And also, you can understand what your limits are as far as being able to help. So for this next part, if you've been watching passively or just eating with food or, whatever, I want you to pay attention real quick and just look at me and pay attention to the words that I'm about to say, because this is very important. Let go of the idea that you are going to be a perfect person. You are going to make mistakes. You are probably going to say the wrong thing. You're probably going to do the wrong thing. That doesn't matter. What matters is how you bounce back from it. So let go of the idea that you are going to be a perfect person. You will never be a perfect person. Nobody on this earth will ever be a perfect person. And of course, with anything in life like this, there are lines that we need to draw, That's another reason why understanding privilege is important, because there are some personal lines that you can draw. And, there are some lines as far as forgiving like bad actions that you shouldn't draw. As a white person, you shouldn't be saying whether or not somebody should be forgiven for racism. Like, part of that whole idea of, am I a perfect person? Or like, am I doing enough? Do I care enough? If you've been thinking to yourself, oh, do I care enough? Am I doing enough? If you've been asking yourself those questions, you are very, very likely on the right track. I don't know you, the person watching this, but I know that if you've been thinking about that, you're definitely on the right track. I can't know for sure, but the thing is, you do care, and that's good. And so now you may be thinking to yourself, okay, so I care. Now what? Because listen, if we could just care our way out of this, we would probably be out of this. Hopefully, I don't know. Now that you care, the best thing that you can do is learn how to care about all these issues, even when they're not the front page of the news. Even not when they're the most topical current event, is so important. If you've taken a psychology course or an economic course or anything like that, you may have heard of this term or this concept, but you're probably familiar with it because all of us experience this in our daily lives. But it's habituation, which is decreased response to a situation or stimulus or etc. due to like overexposure or due to experiencing something over and over and over again. For example, you may have a song that you really like, but then if you play it over and over and over again, then, you're like, oh, it's a good song, but it's overplayed. Or if you have a comfort meal that you eat like every single day, eventually after a while you get sick of it. Or if you have like a favorite like funny clip or a funny whatever that you watch over and over and over again, eventually you're not gonna like laugh as hard as you did the earlier times. It doesn't mean that the things that you once enjoyed were bad. It just means that, you're burnt out on it because that's all you are consuming. And so those are, your favorite song, a favorite comfort meal, a favorite clip or whatever. Those are all positive stimuli. You can get burnt out on positive stimuli. Now imagine how much faster you can get burnt out on, something that elicits like a negative or scary or fearful or, response. Like, the news that's happening in the world. It doesn't mean that we should ignore it, but part of being able to process and share this information long term is by also factoring in joy. Joy and seriousness both should coexist in your life. And joy in times like this is crucial. This does not mean that we just tune out everything when we feel like it because it makes us scared or it makes us sad. That's not what I'm saying. That is completely missing the point because we shouldn't. People are getting kidnapped, killed, whatever on the street. That doesn't mean that because that scares us, we should just forget about it. Absolutely not. But also, if that is all you consume all the time, then pretty soon you'll get so burnt out on it that even seeing that news, you're like, it doesn't faze me. It just is so horrible that I don't even care anymore. So then you just move on and just forget about it. That is what can happen. And that's what happens often. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, we need to talk about the serious things happening in the world, but it's also important to have joy in your life because life without both of them is unfulfilling. If you're just looking for joy and only doing things that are, for joy all the time, then you risk ignoring serious things that are happening to people all over the world, even to people that are close to you and that matter. But if seriousness is all that you experience in life, that's also the opposite end of the spectrum of, life being miserable. Because at the end of the day, we fight all of this evil stuff so that we can live a life unified and that is joyous. In order to center joy in a time when we need to be serious about the things going on in the world, these are some tips on how to do it properly. The first thing is to check in with the hard things in the world, which is, acknowledging what is happening and, properly dissecting it and understanding your position of privilege, which, hey, we did that earlier. I would also say, as a personal recommendation, if you can, please don't let it be the first or last thing you do in the day. When you're waking up in the morning, your brain's still sort of waking up, that is an easy trap to like start doom scrolling because yes, while getting your information off of social media is a great tool because there is a lot of like unfiltered and whatever. I mean, I don't know about TikTok anymore, but hey, there's a lot of, information that is not shown on like most major news networks because it's not advertisable, it's not profitable. But then you also run the risk of doom scrolling. And then when you're super tired, just waking up, your eyes are opening for the first time in the day, your brain's still waking up. It's really, really easy to get trapped in that. So in times like these, a habit that I've been, trying to do is not open my phone or not like scroll on social media for at least the first hour of waking up. When I wake up, I'll like check any notifications that I got overnight just to make sure that there's nothing urgent that I need to attend to. But then afterwards, make sure everything's clear. I put the phone down and I put on some music and I eat breakfast. I make my bed, which, hey, there's my bed. It's my panda. But doing stuff like that is important, And then keeping up with current events is important, but when it's late at night and you're trying to go to bed, everything seems even like everything that is happening is heightened to times 10 to a point that it's almost unhelpful. Not completely, of course. It's always important to stay informed, but at a certain point, you've experienced things throughout the day and now your level of emotional regulation is, less and less as the day goes on and as more things happen. So it gets harder to process all this information. And so, if possible, just try and gather your information about the current events throughout the day, not at the beginning and not at the end during the day, so that you have time to properly process everything. And of course, certain days call for certain things. So try not to, scroll through social media first thing or last thing in the day. That's just general good rule of thumb for life. But also, if you have trouble doom scrolling, which, hey, guilty. I've seen online that it generally only takes around 30 minutes to get all of the stories of the major current events online. So do with that information with what you will. Some days you may literally need to just set a timer, be like 30 minutes, get what I need to get, and then do something else. Because at the end of the day, you need to look after yourself. Like, no matter what happens in life, you need to look after yourself. You are the only person that is with yourself 100% of the time. There is no other person who knows you better than yourself. You need to take care of yourself. You need to love yourself the best you can. Obviously, a lot of our lives are on social media. I mean, hey, if not, then good for you. But, I grew up with the internet. I grew up being online. I have high screen time, I will admit. So another thing that is important is to try your best to develop hobbies outside of social media. It doesn't even have to necessarily be completely not online, but obviously those are great. Some of the hobbies that I do that are still sort of online but not on social media, listening to music, watching a movie or a show, making art of any kind, calling a friend, playing a game, etc., etc., etc. There's a bunch, and I implore you to look them up because you may never know. You may find your next passion by doing so. But also, some hobbies that are not online that are also great, going for a walk. I mean, I went for a walk 2 days in a row, and I like to listen to, albums. So I combine both an electronic, non-electronic hobby. Also, recommendation, if you're going on a walk, listen to Control by SZA. I love walking to that album. Oh my God, it's so good. I mean, Control by SZA is truly a generational album, in my opinion. But hey, another great hobby to do is reading, I know people say it all the time. Reading is important. Reading is great. It is. But, hey, I will be the first to admit that I'm not a huge reader. And that's probably because I can't even remember the last time that I've read for fun. Because in my brain, reading is associated with doing schoolwork, with a book report, with a textbook, with a project, whatever. And so if you're like that too, then hey, there's no shame in picking up a comic book, picking up a picture book. Leisurely reading is supposed to be fun. So if that comes through, reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or reading something over and over again, or reading something super slow, you could take a whole year reading one book. But as long as you're reading and you're, having fun and enjoying it, that's great. And as much as I really do not want to say it, as much as I hate to admit it, exercise is also a good way, a good hobby, and a good thing to do. It sucks. It's so messed up that like eating good and like exercising are actually helpful, and like resting and getting a full night's sleep. It's so fucked up. Like really, like that it pisses me off. But unfortunately, yeah, exercise is actually pretty cool. That doesn't mean like working out till failure every single day, because once again, with habituation, if you do something the same way, over and over and over again, then you're just either going to get bored of it, you're going to hate it, whatever. So if you're going to try exercising more, take rest days, or you don't have to exercise till failure. You don't have to work out to get abs. You can do whatever you want that feels good, especially if you're working out at home. Like literally just exercise and do things that feel good. You don't have to get your heart pumping or get on a sweat or whatever. You can just exercise for fun. Another thing you can do is just clean. I mean, hey, I make my bed every day because I like to hang out in my room. And I like to be productive in my room. And I find that when my bed is made, it helps prevent me from staying in bed all day. Another thing that you can do is, stretching, yoga, meditation. We should all be stretching more. We should really all be stretching more. And so I would recommend that as well. I'm not saying that if you do all these hobbies, you're gonna be mentally fine. You will obviously have days where everything is just too much. Hey, it's okay. If you're in a room right now, look to your left, look to your right. Every single one of those people have had a bad day. They may be having one right now, and that's okay. We weren't put on this earth to experience this type of stuff. But guess what? We're humans, so we adapt. So this is my way to help other people adapt. So if you're having a day that, you're just struggling to get out of bed, which it happens to the best of us, I would just say, just do your best. Put one foot in front of the others and, try learning some strategies to help with that. Like I said earlier, not using your phone for the first hour and last hour of the day is a great thing to do. And plus, the longer I'm off my phone, the more I'm like, I can get more stuff done. I did it today, and usually it takes me a while to get ready for the day, but I was able to be fully ready for the day before 10 a.m., which, I mean, hey, I know for the people having jobs, you just roll your eyes, which, hey, fair. Also, if you're in college, you probably just rolled your eyes, and fair. But hey, comparison is the thief of joy, so remember that as well. Another thing that gets hard are the lingering emotions that we all feel, especially right now when everything is happening at the forefront and you cannot look away. And so I recently learned this technique called the RAIN technique, which was coined first by Michelle McDonald. And it's an acronym. The R stands for recognize, the A stands for allow, the I stands for investigate, and the N stands for, it depends on where you look, but it either means natural awareness or non-identification. And basically what this means is that when you have an emotion that you're having difficulty processing or you're just lingering on something, the first thing you do with that is just recognize what emotion you're feeling. Just say, I'm sad, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm jealous, I'm angry, whatever it is you're feeling, just say, I am feeling that. And then A, allow. Allow yourself to feel those things. Because at the end of the day, trying to push away any of those negative emotions that we don't want to feel just makes them come up later in a worse way than it could have. If you're like, oh, I can't cry, then that sadness, the more you try and bury it, the more it'll rise up later in anger or a breakdown or whatever. So just allow yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling, You're allowed to feel anxious, depressed, sad, angry. It's super normal considering everything that's going on. And then I, investigate. Now that we've allowed ourselves to feel that and be that, now it's time to investigate. Investigate with kindness why this is happening. So I'll be like, I am feeling angry because ICE is killing people in the streets and that's not right. Sometimes just saying it and processing it like that does a wonder for your mental health. Because at the end of the day, if you can't love yourself, how the hell can you love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here? Do your best to find out why. Why are you feeling this? It doesn't even have to be because of I feel angry because bad things are happening in the world. Of course, could be what's happening. But you could literally just be, I was angry because something didn't go my way and I was really hoping it would. You're allowed to feel that way. You're not a crazy person or evil or whatever for feeling that way. And at the end of the day, at a certain point, you cannot control your emotions. The only thing that you can control is how you respond to those emotions. You also can't control what other people say, but you can control what you say and what you do. And then N for natural awareness, non-identification. Just be aware of the things around you that are not those emotions. If I'm feeling angry, oh, I have a cat. Not in here right now, but just for example, I have a cat and usually she's not angry. She's not angry right now. Little ducks are usually not angry. Just identify things in the world. Doesn't even have to be they aren't angry, but just look around. What's around? If you're looking at my room, you can see I got a Beyonce poster from 7-Eleven, a little artwork, my degree, some more artwork, more artwork, That is Dua Lipa, by the way. You cannot see, but that's Dua Lipa. Hey, shout out. Dua Lipa is, okay, side tangent. Dua Lipa is fucking cool. She is actually super cool. You know, that's a little fake Spotify thing. Well, actually, there's a code on it on top that you can scan. More artwork. There's literally, if you couldn't tell, right here, that sign literally says WAP. For worship and prayer, of course. But yeah, sort of that whole thing of like 5 things you can feel, 4 things you can see, 3, you know, that whole thing. But I found that rain technique has really helped me process some lingering emotions, especially within these last few days. So I just wanted to share that with the people watching this because I have this YouTube channel now. Also, another side tangent. Shout out to everybody who was like really nice to me and like encouraging, and thank you all for subscribing. You know, it really means a lot to me. Sometimes I forget like how many cool people I know, but hey, if you're looking for a sign to put yourself out there, let this be it, because I did, and I don't regret it at all. It was awesome. But also, what was I even saying? I forgot, because y'all are lit. I don't know, but that's the end of my notes other than the wrapping up of it. But the last thing that I want to say to wrap all of this up is that the best thing that you can do is just do your best. You will not be perfect. You will mess up. You will say the wrong things. You will do the wrong things. If you make those mistakes, don't kick yourself more than you have to. Just understand what you did wrong and learn from it and put active effort into being better. And you know, you have to take care of yourself. Also, another thing that I didn't mention earlier that I should have, but being burnt out and exhausted over the news, that's what they want. That is point blank what they want. That's how they keep getting away with this, because for moments, you know, they'll do things that are evil, like cartoonishly evil, that they should not be doing. And then everyone's like, what the hell is this? This is fucked up. It'll be front page news. Everyone will talk about it. But then it's hard to talk about over and over again. And so people will just stop because it's hard, because people are burnt out and people are miserable. And so, you know, people stop, people escape. So that's why it's important that during these hard times that you also find joy and that you also take care of yourself. It's important to take care of yourself so that you can take care of each other, of your community, of the people around you. So that's why I felt that this video was important to make. So I hope this offered some perspective, and I hope that you were able to find this helpful in any way. Or if you just, you know, enjoy me rambling and whatnot about stuff, then I hope you have fun. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you sometime. I don't know when. I still plan on releasing some music this month. I don't know if it'll happen, but it'll happen soon. Fingers crossed. Okay. Goodbye.